Alexander Grant was having dinner at an upscale sidewalk cafe, absently checking emails while eating, when he noticed someone kneeling beside his table. He looked up to see a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun. She wore a worn beige dress and shawl, and in her arms, wrapped in a thin blanket, was a baby. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir," she said quietly, "but may I have your leftovers? Anything you're not going to finish?" Alexander felt his heart stop. He looked at the woman, really looked at her, at the dark circles under her eyes, the way she held the baby protectively, the desperation barely concealed beneath her polite request. "When did you last eat?" he asked. The woman's composure cracked slightly. "Yesterday morning, at a shelter, but they were full tonight, and she stopped, seeming to realize she was explaining too much to a stranger. "I'm sorry. If you don't have anything to spare, I'll go." "Please don't." Alexander stood up and pulled out the chair across from him. "Sit. I'm ordering you dinner." "I can't." "You can. And you will. Please, sit down." The woman hesitated, then carefully lowered herself onto the chair, adjusting the baby in her arms. The infant looked to be maybe 3 or 4 months old, sleeping despite the circumstances. "I'm Alexander." "What's your name?" "Emma. Emma Walsh." "This is my daughter, Grace." Alexander flagged down the waiter. "Can we get another menu? And some water right away?" As Emma ate, trying not to appear too hungry, but clearly ravenous, Alexander learned her story. She'd left an abusive relationship when she was 8 months pregnant. Her family had disowned her for making bad choices. She'd been living in shelters, but with a newborn, finding consistent housing was nearly impossible. She was on waiting lists for assistance, but the system moved slowly. "I'm trying," Emma said, tears streaming down her face as she held Grace. "I'm on every waiting list. I'm looking for work, but no one wants to hire someone with no address and a baby. And I can't afford childcare anyway. I feel like I'm drowning, and no one can hear me." "I hear you," Alexander said, "and I'm going to help. But first, finish eating. Then we need to find you somewhere safe to sleep tonight." "I can't accept, Emma. You're on the street with a 4-month-old baby. It's not safe. I have resources. Let me use them." Alexander got Emma and Grace a hotel room for the night. The next day, he returned with the proposition. "I have a property, a small house I own in a quiet neighborhood. It's been sitting empty since the last tenant moved out. You and Grace can live there. No rent for the first 6 months while you get on your feet. After that, we'll figure out something affordable based on your income." Emma stared at him. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" "Because you asked me for my leftovers while holding your baby. And when I looked into your eyes, I saw someone who needs help. I have the ability to provide that help. So I'm going to." Over the following months, Alexander became deeply involved in Emma and Grace's life. He helped Emma find work, a remote bookkeeping job that allowed her to care for Grace while earning income. He arranged for childcare when she needed it. He checked in regularly, bringing groceries, helping with bills, making sure they had everything they needed. "Why do you keep coming back?" Emma asked one evening after Grace had gone to sleep. "You've already done more than anyone else ever has. You don't owe us anything more." "I keep coming back because I've realized something. I've spent 15 years building a successful business. I have more money than I could ever spend. But I eat dinner alone at sidewalk cafes while reading emails. I go home to an empty apartment. I have no one to share my life with, no purpose beyond profit." Alexander paused. "Then you knelt beside my table and asked for my leftovers. And I saw what I'd been missing. Purpose, connection, the chance to actually make a difference in someone's life." "Alexander, you've made such a difference already." "I'm not explaining this well. What I'm trying to say is that somewhere between that first night and now, somewhere between helping you find housing and watching you rebuild your life and holding Grace while you showered or cooked or just had 5 minutes to yourself, I fell in love with both of you." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I was homeless 6 months ago, begging for food with a baby in my arms. I have nothing to offer you. You have everything to offer. Strength, resilience, grace, a reminder of what actually matters in life. Emma, you asked me for my leftovers. I want to give you everything, not out of pity or charity, but because you've become the most important person in my life." 8 months after Emma had knelt beside his table at that cafe, Alexander proposed not at a fancy restaurant, but in the small house where Emma and Grace lived, where he'd spent countless evenings having simple dinners and playing with Grace. "Emma, you asked me for my leftovers that night. That question changed my life. It showed me what I was missing, what I needed. You've given me more than I ever gave you: purpose, love, family. Will you marry me? Let me officially be part of this family already, love." At their wedding, Emma gave a toast. "I was at my lowest point, homeless with a baby, begging for food. I knelt beside Alexander's table and asked for his leftovers. He gave me dinner that night. Then he gave me housing, support, opportunity. Then he gave me love. I asked for scraps. He gave me everything." That's not just generosity, that's seeing someone's worth when they can barely see it themselves. "Alexander, you looked into my eyes that night and saw a person worth helping. Thank you for never looking away." Years later, Alexander kept a photo from that first night taken by a friend who'd been with him at the cafe, and captured the moment Emma had approached the table. It reminded him that the most important business he'd ever conducted wasn't in a boardroom, but on a sidewalk. When someone asked for leftovers and he gave them his heart instead. Sometimes a question about leftovers leads to love. Sometimes kneeling on a sidewalk leads to standing at an altar. Sometimes the woman with the baby, and nothing becomes the family that fills everything. And sometimes, when you really look into someone's eyes, you see not just their need, but your own, and the miracle is that you can meet both. If this story touched your heart, please like and share it. Subscribe for more stories about seeing people's worth and choosing compassion. Leave a comment about when someone looked past circumstances and saw your value. Your stories inspire us all.